Practical chemistry. Prehistory to 800 CE. Introduction. Practicality was often the driver for early forays into chemistry. While the Western world often focuses on itself as the theater for much of the documented history of chemistry, the foundations of practical chemistry were laid down by ancient empires across the globe. Initially, they used chemical processes to make items for everyday use or convenience, such as soaps, pottery, fabric dyes, and home building materials. From archaeological evidence, we know that fermentation was among the first biochemical processes with which our ancestors experimented, creating bread and fermented beverages. In what is now China, early rice wines were produced by fermenting rice, honey, and fruit. While it is likely that the Chinese also developed processes for distillation, that technique is thought to have originated in ancient India. Several indigenous civilizations in the Americas and sub-Saharan Africa are also known to have developed their own alcoholic beverages. Chemical artistry. Distillation was not used solely for alcohol production. In Babylon, present-day Iraq and Syria, the development of early chemistry apparatus and techniques allowed for the separation of mixtures by exploiting the properties of the mixture's components. These processes were turned to artisanal purposes, including the production of perfumes. Babylon can lay claim to the first documented chemist, Taputi Balati Kalim, who recorded her work on clay tablets. She detailed her use of extraction, distillation, and filtration to concoct perfumes for medicinal and ritual purposes. Glassmaking was another chemical process that led to artisanal uses. In Assyria, which covered parts of present-day Iran, Iraq, Syria, and Turkey, the first glassmaking manual was discovered in the library of King Ashurbanipal. But we know from archaeological evidence that other civilizations, including those in Egypt, China, and ancient Greece, were experimenting with glassmaking before this time. The glasses produced were used to make weapons, decorative objects, and hollow vessels, though the art of glass blowing wouldn't develop until the 1st century CE. Metallurgy. Early chemistry also allowed metal reserves to be exploited. Precious metals such as gold and silver were less problematic to use than other metals, which often existed in combination with other elements, but techniques used in Lydia, modern Turkey, for refining gold and silver enabled the creation of standard coinage systems. More important were the techniques devised to isolate other metals from their ores, where these were found chemically combined with other elements. Early blast furnaces in ancient China were used to extract iron, and there is evidence of copper smelting in some indigenous South American civilizations. Such processes transformed metals from being primarily used to make decorative cultural items to being harnessed in a range of practical applications, including weaponry. Elemental foundations. About 2,500 years ago, ancient Greek thinkers turned their minds to theorizing about what makes up the world around us. Their philosophy laid the foundations of theoretical frameworks that would remain highly significant in the study of the material world for centuries afterward. The philosophers Leucippus and Democritus introduced the concept of atoms as solid, indivisible pieces of matter that make up everything around us. Democritus also postulated that different forms of atoms made up different substances and that atoms could combine with each other in various ways. In the same period, Empedocles proposed that every substance is formed from a combination of 4 basic roots: earth, air, fire, and water. Plato is thought to have been the first Greek philosopher to refer to these substances as elements. Aristotle went on to define an element as not itself divisible into bodies different in form defined. He also gave descriptive qualities to the elements to explain the substances of the qualities of substances. His theory persisted until the 17th century, until it began to be superseded by the discovery of physical elements. Conversely, the theory of atoms disappeared but began afresh in the 18th century. These classical ideas, with the techniques and apparatus created in various ancient cultures, would form the basis of modern chemistry.